Now, believe me, I know it doesn't make for necessarily the most fun and uplifting video in the world, but sometimes we have ourselves transcripts and TV hits or radio interviews or podcast segments that are so darn informative that we have no choice but to go out there and just read it. Straight up go over everything and try to digest what it is that's being talked about. The Vancouver Canucks have themselves a bunch of stuff in the news cycle today, and I wanted to get into it in this video because Elliotte Friedman on the recent 32 Thoughts podcast just revealed some really interesting information about Elias Pettersson and the entire cycle that's going through in Vancouver right now. But before we dive into that, I wanted to go over this tweet by the Vancouver Canucks. GM Patrick Allvin announced that Erik Brannstrom and Artyom Baines have been recalled from Abbotsford. So we had spoken about this just the other day in the video that the Vancouver Canucks and their entire process here 23 hours ago. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Patrick Allvin sent down Brannstrom and Baines because they wanted to open up some cap space for that day. Now, the Canucks have themselves a game tomorrow. They need their guys back on the roster, so they're coming back in. Everybody knew that they were going to stay with the team. They just needed to get sent down and then get called back up on paper so that the Vancouver Canucks could save a little bit of cap space. Every little bit helps, right? Especially as the cap space accrues over the course of the season. So that, of course, is a good thing to see out of Vancouver, and then you have the old Simpsons gif down there in the replies. But what I wanted to do was respond to Elliotte Friedman's most recent 32 Thoughts podcast, as well as what Bruce Boudreau went out there and spoke about on Donnie and Dolly in regards to Elias Pettersson. Elliotte Friedman on the latest 32 Thoughts podcast had this to say. This is a transcript of everything that's been going on, and it just gets longer and longer. So without further ado, let's go over into the midway point of the article, or let's start out over here. Last year was we wanted to get this guy signed, we wanted to get this over with, we want this done with. We want a commitment from Pettersson or we're moving on. You remember when I sat down with him last year before the playoffs? He said he never thought he was going to get traded. I think there were people in the organization who were ready to trade him. But, as Pettersson said at the end of the day, he was going to sign, so he wasn't concerned about it. Okay, so the Canucks got their sale done. Pettersson signs 8 years, $11.6 million, he's a Canuck, he's a great talent. Now we're in the service, okay? Even though the Canucks signed Pettersson, I think they felt there was another level or two levels that they felt they needed to get him to. I think it was felt that, as great as he is, they needed him to be tougher. I don't know if meaner is the right word, but tougher. Now, some people are not wired that way, but I think they felt he was wired that way and is wired that way, but they had to encourage him to get up there. And also what I believe in young Bukauskas is that they didn't want him to be Rutherford or Allvin or Tocchet to do it. Oh, so they transcribed this with an AI machine. That's why there's the misspelling there of Tocchet. Right. They felt they really believe in their leadership group. They believe that Hughes is a strong captain, and they believe that Miller is a strong alternate, and that their group is a strong group. And I think they said, you guys are the ones that are going to have to bring this toughness out of Elias Pettersson. Not the coach, not the GM, not the president. It's going to be the leadership on the team. And you know that Miller, whom we had talked about yesterday, they kind of scuffle a little bit, Peter and Miller, is obviously taking that very literally. I think in that practice, I think there have been some talks off the ice, but I think Hughes is involved too. I just think that Hughes would take that so seriously as a responsibility of his. I think you're insane if you don't think that he is trying to do that too. Now, I think there are limits. You can't go too far, but we've seen Jim Montgomery push Marchand. We've seen Berube push the Maple Leafs. I think the Canucks see it as, it might be better for Pettersson if it comes from his teammates as opposed to the coach or the GM. I think what the Canucks have said to their leadership group is, Elias needs to get to another level. You all see it, and we want you guys to get him there. And I think they see it, they understand it, and they're trying to push him there. And I think the message comes harder from some guys, Miller, as opposed to other guys like Hughes. But I think that's the goal here. I think they feel that tough love is the way, or like in the world, if we want to be successful, we have to be prepared sometimes for honest, maybe tough criticism, as long as it's meant properly. We all have to deal with that from time to time. And I think that's what the Canucks are trying to do here. Now, I think there's a couple of things at play. I think that I don't think he always likes it. I think they're hoping he will understand that it's to make them win. But I don't think he always likes it. I also think, I don't know how serious it is, but I don't think he's 100%. Yeah, classic Elliotte Friedmanism, right? I do think I don't know how serious that is, but I don't think he's 100%. So I can't answer that in terms of what percentage he is at, but I do think that it's a factor. The biggest thing I think he feels is that, I think a lot of players, they almost prefer it when the criticism comes from, or around the constructive criticism comes from the certain chain of command, like from up top. Whether it's the manager or the coach, you don't always like it when it's your teammates, because your teammates, you're supposed to have your back. But also, teammates are as good as anybody, even in where we work, Kyle. When you're acting, or you're not yourself, or you're not right, or you're not performing to your best ability, like, sometimes I find it's my teammates who tell me when I'm not doing my best job. And I think that's the way the Canucks see it here. The other thing I would like to say is, in the last podcast, we had spoke about how him being on top of the social media game too much. Well, someone called me and said he didn't go far enough. I go, okay, what did I miss? And the source that called Elliotte Friedman said that Elias Pettersson's friends are sending him stuff too and telling him stuff. And that is the worst. The worst. This, I think, is really, really damning. Pettersson, what are you doing? Your friends are sending you what's going on social media? Your friends are sending you the discourse? Your friends are sending YouTube videos and tweets and radio hits, like from me or from anybody else, talking smack about you? No way. Look, man, I get it. Everything is on the internet for everybody to dive into, but as Bruce Boudreau goes out there and speaks about Andoni and Dolly, listening to the media, having that social media presence is one of the worst things that you could go out there and do, especially when you're losing, especially when you're playing poorly. Bruce Boudreau spoke about this on Donnie and Dolly, saying that, hey, I never listened to you guys. I know that, and I wish I didn't have to listen to the guys upstairs either, but that's a different story. The guys upstairs, of course, being management and ownership. But even Bruce Boudreau is going out there and talking about how it's really difficult to be a part of the social media world, especially when you're a part of a losing team or you're not playing to the best of your ability. So for Pettersson's friends, apparently sending him all the stuff that's going on, no way, bro. Absolutely not. That's not okay. The Friedman thing goes out there and gives an entire anecdote about some other stuff about social media and how people are connecting and telling what's going on. The next time a family member says to you, or a friend says to you, this is what this person said about you on television, tell them if they do it one more time, you are cutting them off from communication. I'm serious, because I guarantee you, those people make it sound worse than it really is. They warp it. They always make it sound worse than reality. Scroll down here towards the bottom. There are lines that you cannot cross, but this is what the Canucks, I really believe, are trying to do. The number one thing I would do if I was Pettersson is I went back today and I watched, you remember his first game, the goals he was scoring, the fun he was having? He has to rediscover that. He came over as this almost blissfully naive guy and started dominating the league immediately. Whatever that was inside of him at that time, he has to get back to that. I think there is still a great player there, and we've got to get that back out of him. As I said in Monday's episode 2, I just hope he finds joy in the game again, or continues to find joy in the game again. My other takeaway from your theory, Elliotte, and it's a very good one, is that you're trying to peddle the narrative that NHL family members are out to get you. I will say 95% of the NHL family members I've met are great people, but they warp stuff that's sad about their kids or friends or cousins or brothers or sisters. Don't do that. Only tell them the good things. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this Elliotte Friedman thought process on Elias Pettersson, how there might be people in his life, personally, that are telling him some of the bad stuff that's going on in the media and what we're saying about this guy. That's absolutely not okay in my opinion, even on YouTube. I don't go out there and read all the hate comments, because if I spent ample time thinking about it, I would totally just burn up inside and not be willing to do anything at all on YouTube afterwards. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this Elias Pettersson update and how Elliotte Friedman spoke out about it. I'll leave a link in the description to the Reddit post if you wanted to go out there and read the transcription yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.